excited. There's a storm coming in tomorrow. It's not a hurricane. We're going to be fine. It's a great day today to be here. And this is our 43rd Many for Change lecture. And I just want to give a shout out to somebody, Teresa, oh, she's laughing already, who second year in a row did the Base to Space. Woohoo! For those of you who don't know what that is, Space Needle in Seattle, last year for the very first time they opened it up to the public. And she walked from the bottom to the top of all the stairs. And this year your time was 10 minutes, 24 seconds. Oh, all right. Woo! So we're very proud of Teresa with her Base to Space accomplishment. Yay, maybe we can all do that someday, right? Yes. So I really don't have much of a preamble. I usually have slides. I don't. I think I'm just kind of blitzed from all this pre-election stuff that's all around us. And we have to have this little bubble where you kind of think about what our needs are, because it just gets bulldozed by all the press and media. So go vote, that's all I'm going to say. But we're going to have a great little talk and interactive component as well. Today we have with us Dr. Kelly Gupta. Dr. Gupta is a psychiatrist. He is 3 days a week here at the Polyclinic in our behavioral health department and is just an amazing guy. Is going to talk about a similar topic to last month, but a very different bent. And it's a very long title, but it's really about coaching yourself to wellness, looking kind of at things that you can do, kind of the fundamentals. Now, if you're thinking like, wait a minute, I know this, I'm in Many for Change. It sometimes does help to go back to those little fundamentals, see things a little differently, map it out, and I think you're going to have a lot of fun. So we're going to get them framed first.
Okay, great. All right, perfect. Good. Well, it's a pleasure to be here. Again, I'm Kelly Gupta, and I work up on the 9th floor as a psychiatrist. As I have the double life. I do that 3 days a week, and then I work as a coach, a life coach with professionals, and I do that on Mondays and Fridays. And so that's my other life. And so today I'm here in that capacity to talk a bit about coaching. So the title, Coaching Yourself Toward Wellness. So essentially this is what we're going to be doing today. We're going to be talking a little about coaching. What is coaching, right? What are the fundamentals of coaching? And then we're going to be taking that and applying it to this tool called the Wheel of Life. So that ultimately you can use this tool to kind of assess different areas of your life and then leave, bottom line, leave with a specific task. I don't want to say task, but a specific action that you're going to take to move yourself forward in some area of your life, to improve the quality of some area of your life, whatever that is. So that's the big picture, and we'll get into the nitty-gritty in a moment. But it would probably be helpful. I know I've worked today and seen patients, and some of you have been coming from all over, so just to take a couple of minutes to actually get centered. So what I'd like you to do is just to close your eyes. We're not going to do anything freaky. Just close your eyes and just take a few kind of nice, deep, slow breaths. And then on the in-breath, just breathe in the fullness of this moment. Everything that's here in this moment. And breathe out everything that is not here in this moment. And breathe in just the fullness of only what is here. And breathe out everything that is not here. And just do that maybe once more. And then what I want you to do, as you continue to breathe, is just breathe in only what is needed in this moment. Just only what's needed for you in this moment. And breathe out everything that is not needed in this moment. And then just breathe in only what's needed for you in this moment. And breathe out all that is not needed. And that's a lot. And then when you're ready, just go ahead and open your eyes and we will continue. So we're physically here, now hopefully we're mentally here. You all are still awake, and I'm here, and I'm more centered, which is very good, since I'm going to be talking. So we talked about a little bit about what we're going to do, and so the first question really is, what is coaching? What is this thing called coaching? And so I kind of culled together and created my own definition that I think is really captures it, which is that it's really a collaborative process that empowers you to achieve personally meaningful goals. And so the collaborative part is really important, okay? And I like to draw a distinction between what I do upstairs and what I do in coaching. The collaborative process of coaching really is the assumption really is that you are the expert in your own life. You're creative, you're resourceful, you're whole. And so in coaching, certainly when you're working actually with a coach, unlike somebody who's coming like a psychiatrist and bringing expertise and bringing knowledge and sharing in that way, it's really about creating a space where you can tap into what is true for you, where you can tap into what's meaningful to you, and where you can come to your own conclusions about what you want to do and what actions you want to take. And so that's the collaborative part of it. And then ultimately, really the goal is to be able to empower you to achieve personally meaningful goals. And so that can be anything. Now, for a lot of you here in this program, it really may be health-related stuff, but it can apply to a variety of things, career-related things, relationship, finances, any area of your life, which is really fun. So when I work with people, I work with them on a whole variety of issues, and it's really enjoyable. So the good news is the skills that you're going to be learning today, you can apply to health-related stuff, but you can apply to a whole variety of things, as you'll see when we actually get to this exercise called the Wheel of Life. So, okay, so what are the essential ingredients of coaching? How does the magic of this work? The reason it's important to identify these things is that when you are really coaching yourself, you need to understand what actually most effectively facilitates change and action. And so really I've identified 5 main components that are key here. And so it's creating awareness, developing goals, setting achievable steps, overcoming obstacles, and then accountability. And I'll just go through each one of these very briefly. So creating awareness is one that is often overlooked. When we think about coaching ourselves, or working with a coach, a lot of times people just think about goal setting. It's about goal setting and achieving the goals, right? Everything sort of from the next one down. But creating awareness is super important. And what I mean by creating awareness is understanding what's important to you, what do you value, what's your vision for your life, right? What do you really want to do, and why do you want to do it? What is possible for you? What's possible beyond the little box that you put yourself in? Because we all do that. And so a lot of it is thinking outside of the box about what's really possible for my life. I certainly wouldn't be standing here doing this if I had boxed myself into my own self-imposed limitations. So creating awareness is huge, because that's the fuel, that's the passion, that's the motivation, that's like the want power within willpower that really mobilizes us. And without that, it can become very difficult to achieve our goals. So we need that fuel. So that's big. And the rest of the stuff is pretty basic. None of it's going to surprise you. So once we've identified what's really important to you, what your values are, what you imagine you want your life to be like, then it's about developing specific goals. Okay, so a goal may be climbing all of the steps in the Space Needle. There's a perfect example of a goal that somebody would set. Okay, perfect. So over I don't know, how many months did you kind of plan this over?
Actually, it's been about 1.5 years.
Yeah, 1.5 years.
Yeah.
Right. So a nice long-term goal. So you set the goal. over a year and a half. So that's a perfect example. Well, then we move on to setting achievable steps. Okay, so how many of you have set a goal for yourself, something you really, really wanted to do, but then sort of gotten overwhelmed because it's like you've got this huge goal in front of you, whether it's you want to lose 20 pounds or change your career or whatever it is, and then it sort of goes by the wayside and never happens, never materializes. That is certainly true of me. In fact, I still have a couple of those that are on the back burner that I haven't addressed and need to, and they're nagging at me. So that's why we need to set achievable steps. If we can break it down into manageable pieces, like you probably did, then it actually gets done. So pretty elementary stuff, but often in the moment we forget this, right? We develop a goal and then it just seems so overwhelming that we don't know how to develop these steps and stick with it, and so it just gets lost. Another very important thing is overcoming obstacles. So along the way, anytime we're pursuing some goal, we're going to hit obstacles. Whatever those obstacles are, they may be time obstacles, family obstacles. Inner critic is a huge obstacle. I can't do this, I'm going to fail at this, right? I'm going to get up and do this talk and it's going to flop, you know? There's all of that inner self-talk. So some of it is inner and some of it is our external obstacles, and we need to identify those and overcome them. And then finally, and this is such a simple but like essential ingredient of coaching, is accountability. So if I'm accountable to somebody other than myself to get something done, the likelihood that I'm going to get it done goes way, way, way up. So I have a coach that I work with. She lives in Santa Fe, and I've worked with her for like 3 years. And so we set goals every week. And I find that I meet with her on Monday. And sometimes Sunday rolls around, or Saturday rolls around, and I realize, there's this thing that I agreed to do, and I get it done, because I have someone to be accountable to. And so it's very simple and magical. So those are the essential ingredients, and we are going to bring these in. We're going to consciously integrate these later into this Wheel of Life exercise that we do. So, the Wheel of Life. All right, so what is this thing? And we'll jump to it in a minute. It is, so basically, it's just a strategy for rapidly assessing your satisfaction in various areas of your life. We don't usually sit down and when we get home, put on our smoking jacket, get out our pipe. Well, who does that anyway anymore? But and Sherlock Holmes, right? I don't do that, but it sounds kind of nice. I don't have a good parlor though for it. And identify all of these different areas of our life and say, oh, how happy am I with this, and this, and really systematically do it. This is an easy tool that you can use on a repeated basis to do that. And it's also helpful for affecting substantial changes. So, the Wheel of Life and coaching, before I move on, my disclaimer is it's not indicated for everyone, okay? Well, I'll just move on to the next slide because I don't want to waste your time. Hopefully you haven't been here. You're not going to have to walk out after I share the next thing with you. Okay, so it's not indicated for everyone. So this is my dog. This is our dog. Francesca is her name, and there she is. She's cute. She's sweet. That's not the point. The point is, we've just arrived back in Atlanta. The suitcase has been opened. She's crawled in there, and everything is perfect in her life. She operates according to a program. She doesn't have goals. She doesn't have to climb upstairs. She does to get food, but she doesn't have a goal to. She sleeps when she wants to. She eats when she wants to. She gets love. She gets attention because of that face. She gets taken to the vet. I mean, she's got universal health coverage. So, if everything is perfect in your life and you can't think of anything you want to change, like this little face here, this needy, cute, desperate little face, so this is not for her. But if maybe everything isn't exactly the way you want it to be, or you're happy but you can see room for improvement in certain areas of your life, then this is for you. So I don't see anyone leaving. But don't you look at this, as an aside, don't you look at your pet sometimes as you're walking out the door and just think, you know, I would really want to meet you. I mean, you're
Yes.
guiltlessly napping after eating. You don't care when you're going to wake up. I mean, can't we just change brains and lives for a day? I was burned out at this job that I used to do in Atlanta, and I used to just look at her and be like, can't we please just switch? But we can't. We're here, we're humans, and we're gifted and cursed with this intelligent brain. So here's the wheel of life. All right. So most of it is pretty self-explanatory. So fundamentally what you want to do, and we'll do this in a minute, is you want to rate the quality of your life from 1 to 10 in these various areas. Okay, now 1 is rock bottom, it can't get worse, I'm absolutely miserable in this area. 10 is it just couldn't possibly, it could not get any better. So I want to just clarify a couple of these that are not necessarily self-explanatory. Oh, maybe I'll use the pointer. Oh, good. I will use the pointer. This is fun. Okay, so career is pretty straightforward. Family and friends. Okay, here's what I want you to do. Do you have a pen? All right. I want you to carve this in half. Here's the reason. You can see family and friends. Some people have great relationships with friends, but their families, not so much. So we want it to be evenly, accurately represented. So cut that one in half. Significant other romance, pretty self-explanatory. Fun and recreation, this is what you do for fun, what you do, just what's your passion, what you enjoy doing, whether it's, I don't know, I think of camping, but I don't camp, I can't stand camping. I like showering, I like my bed, I do not camp. Health and money, we got those down. Personal growth. So what are you doing to grow as a human being, to learn, to evolve your mind, to evolve your spirit? So personal growth can really also involve your spiritual life too, your spiritual or your religious life. How happy are you with that? So it can include that because there isn't one specifically for spirituality, so you could include that in personal growth. And then physical environment is mainly centers around your home environment. How happy are you with the environment that you're actually living in? Because that certainly affects our overall state of mind. I have nothing hanging on my walls. I'm a terrible decorator. I would rate my physical environment not at a 10. So, but that's just a little disclosure on my part. I do, if I happen to forget, remind me, I do have an Alpo dog food story to tell you at the end, toward the end. So make sure that I remember to tell you that. So what I want you to do, just take a few minutes, 3 or 4 minutes, something like that, and go ahead and just fill this out. And then when y'all are done with it, then what we can do is move on and use those different coaching tools to make the best use of this. So I'm going to grab a little water, and y'all just work on stuff and kind of let me know when you're done. There's
Great story here while you're working.
Mm.
My husband and I are celebrating our 25th wedding anniversary this year, next month. We were just at a restaurant. It's not that we've never been to a restaurant before. But for some reason, we had this really extravagant waiter who was describing all of the desserts on the dessert cart next to our table, taking them off the cart, displaying them, talking about them, and putting them back. I mean, it was just like over the top. There were about maybe 10 desserts. I think maybe 8 of them looked really attractive. I'm thinking, oh my God, what am I going to have? But deep inside me, I thought I was just gravitating to this one. I just knew I was going to have it. And then the waiter asked my husband something, and he looked at me. He goes, like, I know what she's going to have. I thought, there are 12 choices. There are 8 of them that I really like. And by golly, the bugger, he picked the one I chose. So I said, well, I'm going to guess your dessert. And I did. That was pretty awesome.
Yeah. Okay, so now that you've done this, and by the way, so this whole thing's very experiential. I don't have a whole lot of slides, so I've only a few more, which is good. So the next part. So now I want to just have a discussion. I think this will actually be a lot of fun. So this is, remember, looping back to the different components of coaching. So step one is creating awareness. So one really nice thing about this tool is that it very quickly creates some awareness about where you stand, where your overall life satisfaction is, and in different specific areas of your life. So just doing the tool creates some awareness. The visual representation of it helps to create some awareness. So there are some questions that we can ask that actually kind of further deepen this. So as an example, what insight did you gain out of filling this out? What did you learn? What really struck you? What jumped out at you? What surprised you? And then what, if anything, bothered you? So I'd love to hear from some of y'all answers to any of these questions. What may have jumped out at you, surprised you, bothered you, led you to think a little bit more? Mm-hmm.
Well, I wasn't sure what to do with career if you're retired, so I'm trying to think of like having a purpose maybe or something. So that kind of got me.
Ah, yeah. Yeah, so the career. So basically, so if you're retired and you're filling out the career thing, right, what do you do? And I think you made a great point, which is thinking about maybe am I satisfied with what I'm doing, with the activities that I'm doing? Do I feel a sense of fulfillment there with all of the things that I'm doing in my life, or does it feel like there's something stagnant that I could be doing, that I'm not, utilizing everything that I want to? Does that make sense?
Yeah, I like
Yeah.
the stagnant thing. That's neat.
Sorry?
Think about that stagnant thing. That's kind of neat. Look for where it feels like it's not moving.
Right.
Yeah.
Yeah, and I'm glad you bring that up, because that stagnant thing is a really great thing in coaching. A lot of people actually come to coaching because they feel stagnant and stuck. They can't quite identify what the goal is, but they just feel stuck and stagnant and want to kind of move forward into whatever the next step is, whatever the next realm for them is. So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
Sure. So what else came out of this for people? Yeah.
I had 1-1. And then after I kind of drew the little new circle,
Yeah.
I realized that I based that 1 on sort of society's idea, and that really needs to be a 10 because it really doesn't bother me at all.
Uh-huh.
But I didn't, if you'd asked me without me thinking it, I'd say, oh, that's really bad. But it really isn't.
Yeah.
I'm good with it. I'm good with that.
That's a great catch, isn't
I'm
it?
going to change that to a 10.
Atta girl. I think that's fantastic because, so often we get these things conflated. Like, what are society's expectations of us and what is our actual truth? What's our truth? Because that's fundamentally, most of the time, what matters. Paying taxes is another thing, right? I've got to do it. But truly, that's a great catch. Yeah. So anything else that anybody wants to share?
Well, sorry, go ahead. I was just going to say, springboarding off of what she said. We split family and friends apart.
Yeah.
I then had to split family into 2.
Whatever you need to do. You know what?
Dysfunctional. And
Yeah.
tying back to what she said, and society's expectations and what we think a family is supposed to be like, or that complexion of that family is supposed to be in terms of happiness and you know, likes and dislikes and similarities and,
Right.
you know, the perfect TV family.
Yeah.
Yes, which I don't really know anyone that's one of those, but you forget that.
Sure.
You know, you forget that.
Yeah. Again, like what is the real standard here? Like, what does an actual 10 look like? And what are we basing that on? Yeah. And I think, so I think it's kind of neat because this, again, can be a springboard for thought and contemplation around those things that we don't normally think about when we're kind of assessing things. I really, really like some of the thoughts that have come up around this. Sure. Did you come to any conclusions?
Well, no, but it's like you know, it's like she said, it's really not so bad.
Yeah.
You always think, you know, it's only your family.
Right, yeah. Well, you know, if nothing else, if somebody can, you know, leave this talk feeling better, then great. Better about an area of their life. Even if you don't do anything, if you just feel better about some area of your life, well, hey, you're cooked, you're set. All right, mission accomplished. I mean, you already climbed the stairs for God's sake, you know? What else is there, right? Maybe there are no goals to set for you. Okay. And what did you want to share?
Well, I just found it ironic and amusing that this is supposed to be a wheel and mine resembles a pile of collapsed pickup sticks. It's just, oh, this wheel will never roll. That's what I said to myself.
Yeah.
So obviously something has to change if this wheel is going to roll because it's just totally unbalanced.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, I think that's the value of kind of drawing it out, right? The visual impact of seeing that.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah. Great. So what else? Anything else?
Yeah, I changed my family one too, listening to it. Because I asked myself, well, why did I put it so low? And it makes me feel, I think that I felt like it's my responsibility. And then listening to other people, it's like, well, what is other people's expectations of what, you know, families? And yeah, it would be great if we had good family dynamics, but if it's just not, it's just not. So it's kind of like, yeah, it's not so bad. Because I don't need to feel guilty about
Mm-hmm.
the family dynamics.
Yeah. That sounds very freeing.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
was. So thank you.
Yeah.
My wheel's less jiggity now.
Yeah. Well, you know, thank yourself, because what's really neat is that the insight came out of you
Yeah.
when you did this, which I think is the value of it and why we can get so much out of it, is because there's all of this wisdom that we have in us. We just need oftentimes a mechanism for eliciting it. And you wanted to share something?
Oh, well, what I was going to throw out there, my career, like it, doing well, but it's killing me. So,
Yeah.
yeah.
How do you rate that?
Yeah, how do I rate that?
Split
Sure.
it into two.
Yeah. Yeah. Oh, that's fun.
Yeah.
Good idea. Yeah.
Sure, you could do that, or you could just kind of
Yeah.
factor both of those in.
Uh-huh.
You know, you love it, but it's killing you.
Yeah.
It may end up being a 5.
Yeah.
Right. Yeah, but that's a good one. You know, because so often a lot of people are in situations and positions where, just looking at the time, I'm fine. That we are doing things that we love, but our lives are totally out of balance because we're working excessively, because the demands on us are too high, because of whatever. I mean, it's extraordinarily common. And so I think another reason, this is super common, another reason people actually come to coaching is for the whole work-life balance thing. Because societally, we are so out of balance. You know, this is not Denmark. Didn't they recently actually even lower was it Finland or Denmark that even lowered their work week? Yeah. Anyway, not true here. So yeah, I mean, I love that you bring that up because that's such a common thing, right? Great.
I can talk about mine. It was interesting because it was a private moment. I'm doing it for me. And then I think my highest score on anything was a 9, had a bunch of A's. And then I hear Teresa giving herself a 10 over there. And I thought, all of a sudden, it's like a comparison, like, wow. And why is it we do this? We're compared, well, we should be something where I maybe could have done it differently, when this was just that personal moment. I didn't give myself a single 10 in anything. So it was very interesting to process that. Is that accurate? Do I feel that way? Is this just this moment in time? Will be different tomorrow? Or it's a fascinating process to go through.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, it is, and it's fascinating. It's neat because then you can and one of the things we'll talk about is it's something that you can kind of keep bringing out and doing and working with over time to get that overall assessment of what is true for you.
Or if our goals are too high, it might never be a 10, because there's always just that little bit more we could do to bring it to that 10.
Yeah, that's where my mind usually goes. I don't know that I've ever rated anything a 10 because I always think, could it be even better? Maybe so. So I think a 9.5 is my So this has been a great discussion. I was worried I was going to stand here in silence, and I didn't. This has been a 10, okay? This has been great. So let's move on. So now what we can do with this is to start taking some action with it, if you're so inclined. And so what I'd like you to do is pick an area where you would like to see improvement. Now, very important, this does not have to be your lowest area, okay? It does not. So if there's an area where you're a 2, but you don't feel like really working on that right now, well, don't do it. It may be something that's a 7 that you want to bring up a little bit, okay? So whatever grabs you that you really feel like you would like to take a step forward on and improve right now in your life, pick that. And the question then is, what action can I realistically take in the next 2 weeks to raise my score by half a point? Okay, just half a point, not a point. I know some of y'all are going to get all ambitious and want to just calm down, okay? Half a point. And even if you want to decrease that to a 1/3 of a point or a 1/4 of a point, whatever it is, but just some increment. But half a point is usually pretty good. We can do something to upgrade ourselves by half a point. So before we move on to actually really answering that question, I just want to do a little tiny thing around goal setting. Now, you probably by now, a lot of you have heard about kind of how to effectively set goals. And actually, let me just move back here. So as far as the components of coaching, what I'm really doing right now is combining defining goals and setting achievable steps. And what we're really doing is sort of just setting some achievable steps to improve things. If we were really working on the defining goals portion of this, which would take a bit more time, the question I would ask you, and you can write this down for yourselves, and some of you kind of already brought up this question, is if you look at an area you want to improve, right, what would a 10 look like? What would a 9 look like? What for me, not for the rest of the world, but what for me would that look like? What would it take? What would it entail to get to that point? Because that's a longer range vision kind of question, and that's really valuable and important, because that can really kind of get you jazzed and inspired and thinking outside of the box. So that's a good question to jot down. What would a 10 look like? Yeah.
So if my goal is to walk,
Yeah.
as you said, would I be looking at the whole health piece of the pie, or just that one little thing? When I look at it, when I think about what a 10 would be for walking, or what a 10 would be for overall the whole health?
Well, yes. Whatever you want. There is no right or wrong. That's the great thing about this. You can take it in any direction you want. So wherever your mind wants to take you with this that feels good, go there.
Okay, cool.
Okay? Yeah, it's not, I know there's a structure to it, but it's very fluid. So, so at any rate, but we're setting achievable steps. So, okay, let me figure this out again. All right, so effective goal setting. You know, a lot of us have heard about SMART goals, and I just, you know, I bring up this slide, and a part of me just kind of wants to yak a little bit because, you know, this has been so now incorporated into corporate culture and Kool-Aid drinking, and, you know, it just, so let's sort of bring it back and make it useful. This is sort of my own stuff, so I apologize. But at any rate, so SMART goals, this is a way to basically set goals that you can actually achieve. This is the realistically and tangible part. So you want your goal to be specific, okay? So if you, for example, walking, okay? If you wanted to start walking, rather than saying, I want to start walking more, well, you would want to, in the next 2 weeks, kind of define that a little bit more. You know, how much do you want to walk? When do you want to walk? You know, what days do you want to walk? As specific as you can get around that without, you know, being OCD. So specific. You also want it to be measurable too. So we'll continue with the walking thing. So measurable would be, you know, what time usually? How long do I want to do it for? Or time is usually the thing with walking. And then actionable. So this is about taking action. So let's think about an example that would not be actionable. Actionable would be, non-actionable would be, I want to feel better. We all want to feel better, but that's really, you know, we can't really do much with that if that's the goal. Now there are certain things that you can do that will help you to feel better, and that's what we're looking at. So we want it to be actionable. We want it to be an action. And then realistic. Okay. Realistic. We're coming back to this realistic part. Be realistic. Don't set the bar too high. And this is the reason I'm throwing a whole big hand-waving fit about this. This is actually an understated fit for me. Is because, you know, if you set the bar too high and then you don't accomplish it, then what happens? Then you feel demoralized. And then you don't want to go forward, and then you give up on it, and et cetera, et cetera. So set the bar low. Make it realistic. Make it very, very attainable. So you look at it and think, you know what, this is something I could do. Maybe it'd be a little bit of a stretch, but I can do it. And then you want it to be time-bound, and we've already done that. We're saying in the next 2 weeks. Okay? So, I'll give you, I'll give you a couple of minutes to just answer this question. What action can I realistically take in the next 2 weeks to raise my score by half a point? And I'm going to keep the SMART goal slide up so you can just make sure that your goal matches that. And if you, no, I'm not going to finish that sentence. Welcome to my world. So now we move on to obstacles. So very important. So what we want to do is be proactive with this and think ahead about the obstacles that we might face in actually taking this action. Okay? So our next step really is to think about what's going to get in my way. So here are some common things. I'm too busy. That's a biggie. I'm too busy. Or I will get too busy. I'll forget. There's a big one. That's a big one for me. I'm guilty of that one. I'm afraid. There's a good one. I really want to do this. It's very important to me, but I'm afraid, right? I want to give a talk, but fear comes up around that. So what am I going to do? I'm afraid goes along with I can't. I just can't do it. And so this is where some of that gremlin, that internal, that inner critic stuff comes in. Or I'll lose motivation. These are just a few examples of obstacles that can come up for people. One good exercise obstacle is, here's a good one I didn't throw in. I will get home, I will sit down, I will instantly be comfortable, and I will not want to get up and exercise. That's, I mean, how common is that? I'm not going to exercise when I get home. Not tonight. But that's one. So think about, just take a minute to kind of think about some of the obstacles, and then, yeah, just take a minute, and you might want to even jot down something that might get in your way. So now when you talk about overcoming obstacles, this is super important. So if you've identified an obstacle, how are we going to get past it? And so this is where, in coaching, you know, one of the things we use a lot are just powerful questions. And powerful questions are simply thought-provoking questions to really get your juices, creative juices flowing. Because if you can identify an obstacle, you already have the solution, usually, built into you somewhere. It's in there. So some questions that are really helpful. What's enabled me to succeed before? When I've succeeded at something before, something similar or even a different sort of thing where I had an obstacle, what's enabled me to succeed before? And how can I then use that experience? How can I carry that forward in order to overcome this obstacle? Another one, how do others overcome it? How do other people do it? This thing that I'm stuck on. And how can I use some of those tools in order to get past it? And these are just questions to kind of get your juices flowing. How can I leverage my strengths? There's, and I didn't jot this down, but there's a great Marty Seligman who came up with positive psychology, which is all about identifying strengths. There's this online test that you can do to identify what your signature strengths are. So your signature strengths are basically out of 24 strengths. What are your top 5 strengths? And it's called the VIA, V-I-A, assessment of signature strengths. And he is at the University of Pennsylvania. I can send the link to any of you who are interested. But it's great because what you can do is you can look at, okay, what are my top 5 strengths? So I'll give you an example here. I have this client, this is actually kind of funny. I have this client of mine, and she's uber creative, very smart, very ADD, very ADD. So she wanted to, this happened to be an incidental thing. She wanted to go to the grocery store, but it was boring to her, right? And it's just boring. And you know, we don't want to do things that are boring. If you have ADD, you definitely don't want to do things that are boring, okay? So this is where a question came in. So how could she leverage her strengths in order to overcome it? So one of her signature strengths is creativity. She's an extremely creative person. So we came up with this whole Mission Impossible thing. Truly. So how could she make this into some Mission Impossible thing, right? She's got to get in and out of the store, and like, you know, bombs are in the store, and find the store. She even dressed up in black to do this. I'm not kidding you. And I thought it was such a great idea. I had to go to the grocery store. I did the same thing, and it was fantastic. So that's what I'm talking about, is whatever your strengths are, how can you use your strengths to kind of overcome obstacles? And this is really great. There's the smartphone. How can I automate this process? So if one of your obstacles is potentially forgetting, you know, there's so many ways to automate things. And you can, you know, there are plenty of apps to remind you to do things that can pop up, that can inspire you. I have one, if I just want to kind of focus on something inspiring that day and integrate it into my life, that every hour it will pop it up so that I remember that I want to think that way, I want to perceive that way, I want to live in the world that way. So that's an example. Or sticky notes work just fine. If you don't want to deal with tech, and a lot of people don't, having a sticky note on your mirror, in your car, on your computer, I still use sticky notes. So there are a variety of ways to do this. So let's think about this for a minute. We could go a couple of ways with this. If you wanted to take, let's do this. Yeah, we're almost out of time, but actually that's fine because we don't have that much more to cover. Take a minute to maybe think about, based on some of these questions, whatever obstacle you identify, how maybe you could overcome that obstacle, what you could do to overcome it. Another way to overcome obstacles is the last thing that we're going to cover, which is accountability. So that's another solution to sometimes when all else fails. So I'd be interested to know actually from a couple of people what maybe you came up with as an obstacle and what you came up with as a solution to the obstacle, or even if you got stuck on it and you wanted to kind of throw it out there. Shoot.
Okay, what's enabled me to succeed in the past? If I enjoy it, and that sounds so basic, but I forget as I'm walking to enjoy it.
Mm-hmm.
That means looking at the pretty houses or talking to a friend. And then when I think about it later, when I think about doing it tomorrow, remember that I enjoyed it, not the image of 2 years ago that it was raining or cold today.
Right.
Right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's perfect. So then how can you most effectively do that? How can you most effectively remember that you really enjoy it and cultivate that enjoyment so that it can motivate you to walk?
Sure, I'm not sure to change the image in my head. I gotta figure that out. Yeah.
Yeah.
Maybe I take photographs as I walk of the cool things I see, because I think visually that would remind me that it's stimulating, not boring.
Mm-hmm.
That might work.
Yeah. I
And
mean,
I would
that's
just remember the dandelion rather than the walk.
rather than the walk. It's a great thing to try, and a lot of people use, this is super common, use visual reminders, right? So like pictures of what walking actually can be like. And then in the areas that you usually, like in your home or wherever, to actually have the pictures visible somewhere so that it counters all of that talk that's going on in your head. You have these visual reminders around you to provide that counterpoint of like, oh yeah, I actually enjoy this. And so visual reminders are really, really powerful. Written reminders, visual reminders, it's something tangible that you don't have to just think about in your head. Because trying to think it through sometimes, when you walk out of here, it can evaporate.
Yeah.
But the visual stuff that's placed properly, it's in your face, in a great way.
That would be fun to do too.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So there you go. There's your walk.
There you go.
So what else did people come up with?
I need to do my calendar at the end of the day rather than at the beginning.
Yeah. And so what was the goal that you had set for yourself?
On that, it just has to do with getting through projects and really staying focused on where I am in it.
Uh-huh.
And make sure that I'm noting what I got done.
Right.
Yeah, keeping track and staying on track, which it's just calming to me, and it also makes me feel like I actually did get something done.
Right.
Instead of,
Yeah. So that's nice. So basically being able to wrap it up at the end of the day.
Well, and then if instead of at the beginning of the day saying, what am I doing, how's today going? At the end of the day going, oh, right, so there's tomorrow and then the next couple of days. How is that sort of all related?
Mm-hmm. Right. Yeah. Yeah, and I think you bring up another nice thing too, which is acknowledgement, which is something we so often forget. We so often focus on what needs to get done, but the deliberate practice of acknowledging what we actually have gotten done. This is actually part of a whole kind of mental ritual I do. One section of it is acknowledgement. Like, what did I actually do well today? What am I happy about, whether it's small or big? Because that usually gets thrown out the window when I think about what I screwed up. So that'll go on my list tonight, just being here. Okay, so finally, the big daddy, accountability. All right, and this one is an easier one, I think, than some of the others. How can I create accountability? So, who can I be accountable to? It could be a friend, it could be a doctor, it could be a partner, a spouse, it could be a Facebook post. So I'm going to share. So this is one for you to think about. How can I create accountability? Now, accountability. I want to actually make a point about this. Accountability is not. I mean, unless this works for you, is not encouraging someone to flagellate you if you haven't gotten something done. Right? It's just someone to help you stay accountable. That's it. And that you are responsible for to report to, let's say, but not somebody who's gonna kick your butt, unless that really motivates you. And then I say go with it. This is free form. This is all about you. That's the joy of coaching. Is it's so individualized. What works for one person is just a tragedy for another. So I'm gonna get to my Alpo story. Okay, because this sort of ties everything together. And this is recent, and I need a sip of water before I get on to this one. So, this was about, oh God, I want to say 4 or 5 weeks ago maybe. I was getting election obsessed. So what I would do at night, and this is like before I would go to bed, things are getting quiet, they're dark. I reach over to my phone, and there's this search that I would do. Now this is the worst search you can do, okay? It's presidential election predictions. Now I now know, because I've obsessed about it so much and done it, I now know the basic models that are out there. I know that Princeton has a model, I know Nate Silver has a model, I know there's 538, 270 to win. I know there are all of these different models, right? And one side, Larry Sabato's crystal ball, the University of Virginia, and read about how they calculate these things. And so I was obsessed, and I couldn't stop. And the problem was, in all seriousness, there's that. It keeps changing. Okay, so it does not lead to any constructive action. Right? It doesn't lead to any constructive action. It doesn't change the outcome. All it does is make me nuts. Absolutely bonkers. So what I decided to do, I was like, I can't keep doing this. This is like sucking me down the drain, right? So, but how am I going to stop? How am I possibly going to do it when the phone's there? It's so easy. I can't stop myself. It's like crack, So here's what I did. Now this is really creative, and I actually got this out of another book. It was actually out of a Tony Robbins book. He's a self-help person that I always kind of just irrationally held in disdain until I started reading some of his stuff, and it's really quite good. What I decided to do was to associate a consequence of massive pain if I decided to do this. So this is why it's my Alpo story. So I said to myself, if I do this and I do that search and I look it up, I will have to eat a heaping spoonful of my dog's soft food. Exactly. Now there's a hard stop. And the accountability came in. I put it on Facebook. I told colleagues. I laid it out there, and I knew that I have to be I'm reasonably good for my word, right? So that solved the problem. It solved the problem for a couple. Huh?
How did it taste?
Right. Well, so it was good for 2 2 or 3 weeks, and then I got sane, and since then I was like, okay, I'll loosen it up a little. I've looked a couple of times, but I'm not obsessed anymore, which is good. So it sort of fits in all of these things, and really speaks to the fact that when you are coaching yourself, you can get creative. And we've heard a lot of that today, that there are no hard and fast right rules. It just depends on you and what works for you. So get out of the mindset of thinking that it has to be a certain way when you're doing this, and work with what you've got. And again, I'll be happy to, however you can get information, I'll be happy to send the link to the assessment of signature strengths, because it's really, really nice to see what your signature strengths are, right? Mine, this is not a big surprise, one of my top ones is humor. And so and you and I can use that. I can use that to overcome certain obstacles. So if you have questions about anything that we've done today, if you, in working on what you set out to do, hit a roadblock, hit some obstacle, and you want a little bit of troubleshooting around it, feel free to send me an email, and I'm more than happy to kind of help you walk through it. Here's the other thing too. If you just want like praise and congratulations for getting it done, fire me off an email, let me know you got it done, and I will send you something that probably has a lot of caps in it. A lot of caps, and like I will send you sunshine, rainbows, congratulations, whatever you want. But this is really important because we need to recognize when we're succeeding for ourselves, when we are taking those steps, even though they may seem small, they're not small, and recognize that and pat ourselves on the back. And sometimes it really helps to have other people congratulate us as well. So feel free to fire off an email to me for any of those issues. And at this point, I have nothing more. So if any of you, are there any questions at this point that anybody has? Okay, great. Well, listen, it has been an absolute pleasure being here. I'm so glad you turned out. You've been actually a great group, very dynamic, and I really, really appreciate that. And I appreciate you inviting me, and thank you very much for having me.
Thank you so much.